first year, I think I made $200 from ads.
Go.
Like, and it wasn't anything to write home about. Also, I spent many multiples, on equipment and all of this other stuff. So it was a net loss. Also, it was a big sink on my time. But it was super fun, and we did that. So that was year one. Year two, that's when the first 5 videos that I had created, they just blew up. And so I was like, if you know the lore of my channel, I had originally called the channel and myself Meta. This was before Facebook had stolen my name. And so I was like, okay, whatever. They've just rebranded as Meta. I'm just going to continue as Meta on YouTube. And like nobody could find me. Because if you typed in Meta software engineering, it was just popping up Facebook stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to rebrand. If I could go back in time, I would probably just use my name, even though nobody can pronounce it. But then I went to Upwork and I was like, hey, somebody go and come up with some names for my channel. And, somebody, I was like, oh, a life engineer, I'll do that. Nowadays, you would just use GPT and try to find something. That second year, I think I made about $10,000 from AdSense. I hadn't monetized at that point. And, I realized that I needed to do this rebrand. Like, there's an opportunity here because most people don't start. And so I had already created the content and I was starting to understand it. Work was starting to pick back up. But I made the choice that, that I'm going to go all in. And so that's when I did Ali Abdaal's course. And then I did Ed's course as well during that year. That might have been the year after that. But I was just sort of like going in and really just going all in on all of that stuff. Year 3, I started taking sponsorship money. My first one was with Notion. I know that you did one with Notion as well. So that was actually, one of my largest integrations. That year I started taking sponsorship money. At the tail end of that, I had launched my first offer. So that was a relatively good year. So with all the sponsorship money and that first cohort launch, I made about $250,000 while I was still working at Amazon. That was the moment I realized, like, okay, probably like, because I had basically 10x'd my top line every year. And I was like, well, another 10x is just like, let's do it. Like, let's not worth this job. And so that was the moment I decided to quit. But it did require like a ton of nudging. There were, I talked with all the creators that I knew and trying to make this decision because like at Amazon, I'd gotten to the point because I was making content, all of that during that time. I actually decided like, okay, well, if I'm going to be making this content, I'm going to try to phone it in at work. So phoning it in at work means like, I just wanted an exceeds rating for that year. So I'm like, as long as I get an exceeds rating, like I can just kind of goof off and, do my own thing. And so I really just decided, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do the one thing at work. And I'm just going to make sure that I do it really well. And I just like kill it. And it turns out like, just like focusing on one thing at work turns you into a high performer. So I got like top tier 4 years in a row as a principal engineer at Amazon while I was doing my side hustle because I had just like focused on just one thing at a time, which is like crazy. And so I tell people in my program when I'm working with my clients, like if you have time management issues, just prioritize one thing. If you would like to start a side hustle or you would like to spend a bunch of time doing like interview prep or whatever, just focus at one thing at work. Like literally I did it. And it's this weird thing where you become a high performer. Just because I was literally like, how can I like just do like 20 to 30 hours of work so I don't get fired so I can do this YouTube stuff. And it was crazy. I was just like, okay, cool. Well, like, I'm a high performer there and my YouTube stuff is going really well at the same time. So it was like kind of hard to leave because I'd kind of optimized my life and I was doing both. And, I had 2 kids during this time period as well. I have like hobbies and stuff like that. So I'm like, wait a second, I'm actually good with this productivity stuff, So then I decided to circle a date and then leave. Turns out I should have just left 2 months later because I would have made several $100,000 like in terms of stock that would come in just because it was like regular. But I was like, I really wanted to just get out and do my own thing. And so, yeah, that's my first 4 years.
So speaking of sponsorships and launching your own product, what's the breakdown of the pie right now in terms of your business revenue? How much comes from sponsors? How much comes from your own product?
Yeah.
And also on the Notion note, I didn't know anything about sponsorships. My most viral videos is about Notion.
Yeah.
It's like 300,000 views on Notion. I didn't get sponsored by them at all. Like, now I'm looking back, I made 5 videos for them. Like, I was the first Notion for computer science video out there that went viral like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I literally watched your video when I got that sponsorship from Notion because I wanted to see like what a good integration looked like. So I was like inspecting your videos.
Yeah, I wish I got paid for that because I literally just made it for free. So
we'll talk. I can connect you with some.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be super helpful. I thought that they don't do sponsorships as much recently because I haven't seen a lot of them. I know like probably 3 to 5 years ago, especially with Ali Abdal, they used to do a lot. But are they just done with Notion or Spotify?
They're timing it with their product releases.
Okay, got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, but in terms of the pie, I struggle with this because sometimes I'm like, okay, well, the coaching business is the main thing. Everything else is just distribution. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, the sponsorship money, because it comes in fits and spurts, so they might all come in at once. Like now is one of these times where like 6 sponsors just hit me up, and they're all 5 figures, and so I'm like, they're like, hey, can you do like how many videos can you do? Like, can you guarantee a video, in 2 weeks? And I'm like, well, if the price is right, and I'm like, yes, the price is right. Like, let's do it. And they all came in all at once. And so then I'm like, well, maybe I've been neglecting this sponsorship thing for too long, right? And then I have another project as well. I'm writing a book. And so I've been doing that for the past year. I'm trying to hit a home run there. And so part of me is like, well, maybe your focus is like, why are you focusing on all the sponsorship stuff and the coaching stuff when you could hit a home run with the book? My current struggle right now is focus, or at least just knowing what is the one thing that I want to prioritize and then have everything else, feed into that. There was also a business that I started and then failed in that time period as well. So, I think that was the biggest like surprise to me, which is like, I thought that after I quit my job, I had infinite time. And if you just like quit your job and then just say yes to everything, all of that free time goes away so fast. So you asked about the breakdown of the income right now. I would say at this moment, lowish to mid 6 figures on the coaching stuff, and then low 6 figures on the sponsorship. We'll see how the year progresses, and then in the like the 5 digits for AdSense, and then I have the newsletter. The newsletter is free, but I charge for the archive. So basically, there's like 2 weeks where the latest newsletter is free for everybody if you're subscribed. And that's also bringing in 5 figures as well.
Awesome. Something I'm really surprised about is how lucrative your sponsors are. And maybe this is just a little bit of an admission that I don't know how to do sponsorships well, even after taking Colin and Samir's course, because they wouldn't pay me more than a few $1,000s, which maybe it's just a reach. Obviously, your channel has a lot more reach than me. I think another aspect to it is your audience is much older and has a greater purchasing power, so they're willing to dish out more there. But just based on my results, early results of sponsors, the fact that I could just not get more than a few $1,000s. And after launching my own product, which was in the exact same niche as my channel, where I could make a greater impact for the same kind of person, I was able to do much, much more. I usually recommend that people go more towards building their own product rather than going for sponsors. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think demographics plays a big part in it. One thing about the demographics of my channel is most of it is in America. Most of my following is in America. If it's not, then it's North America and Western Europe. And, I'd say like 50% of that or more is in those two continents. There are a ton of YouTubers that they basically are Indian, and like, if you're a big Indian YouTuber, like, it doesn't take very much to get big. But it also turns out that the ad rates are relatively low, right?
Yeah, one of my things is that I have a large Indian following, not because I've said anything or done anything related to India. I'm just brown.
Yeah.
So I guess I just have like a large Indian following, but that probably does actually hurt me when it comes to sponsorship rates as well.
Yeah. The other thing that you said I completely agree with is basically like no sponsor is a charity. Like it's quid pro quo. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you money. Like if they're going to give you $5,000, they're expecting to make on the order of $5,000 back, right? Or more. And so it's just so much more efficient if you are the sponsor. Like why you can just cut out the middleman and then just like promote your own stuff. What I will say though is, I think of, your following on YouTube or whatever platform, they think of that as distribution. And so, yeah, come up with your own offer. Your offer is going to do relatively well if you've established a base and you have broad distribution. But I think the challenge that I've had is just incremental on top of that. So my first couple of launches were like really great. And I was like, that's why it's like in such a rush to leave Amazon. But it started to dry up. Like my third launch was really bad. What I learned is that there's actually seasonality in all of this stuff. Summer is the low period. And then as you go into the end of Q3 and into Q4, that's the high period again. And so I didn't even know that. Right. And so, I did one of my launches and I'm like, oh, I only signed up, 20 people or whatever. And I was like, should I just cancel this like cohort? Like I've made a terrible mistake. It really forced me to evolve the business a little bit. And so what I would say is like, do your offer, but, and you likely have success if you have built-in distribution, but the incremental after that is still going to take some amount of work as well.
I agree. I think building your own offer is significantly more work. It's, when it comes to a sponsor, they're doing everything for you. You just have to literally point your audience towards them, which is why they give you a 10 to 20% cut of whatever they bring in. Usually it's not going to be anything significant. And when you build your own offer, you get 100%, but you also have to do 100% of the work. Right. So what's funny is that you mentioned how the summer is a low period for you. The summer is a high period for me, funny enough.
Because everybody wants an internship, right?
Exactly, right? It's interesting how it's kind of like an inverse there, where for me, my audience, again, is relatively young. They're all in school, so they're all busy during the school year.
Yeah.
And then it's the summer when, one, all the internships open up for next summer, so that's what they want to work on it. And two, they're all just sitting there feeling bad that their friends are doing internships and they're not.
Yeah.
So then they come to us and they're like, hey, I have 2 months.
Do you only do internships or do you do like first offers?
We do first offers too.
Yeah. So they graduate.
Exactly, yeah. Right? They graduate and they're like, okay, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
I'm screwed, right?
Yeah.
Or they're like, okay, I know new grad jobs open up in the fall. I need a job. I'm going to come to you guys, right? So that's why the summer is the best for them to work with us, but also in terms of just interest in the company. For us, our low periods are finals. So no one wants to design on anything during finals. It'll be like, hey, I'm too busy with finals. I'm not going to talk to you guys. I'm not going to work with you guys. Christmas is low. Everyone's on vacation with their family. I think Christmas is low for almost all businesses.
Yeah.
Unless you're in retail.
Well, I mean, I came from Amazon, but the reInvent is also during December. But I think the big thing is like most people do performance reviews at the beginning of the year, right? And so going into Q4 is like the busiest season for, I didn't even think that was the case for like streaming live sports. I was like, oh, okay, well, it must not be like retail. No, actually, like all of the NFL is going on, NBA is going on, Premier League is going on. Like it all happens in Q4, and then the performance reviews happen. And then if there's not a good outcome in performance reviews, that's when people are like, okay, maybe I need some help.
Absolutely. So one thing I'm curious about is you spent several years working full-time as a principal at Amazon while launching this 6-7 figure business on the back end of it. And you're also, you're a family man. You're not just, 21, just sitting there in your bedroom, right? So what was your daily routine to actually create content on the side, run a business on the side, while also getting great reports in your day job while also managing a family?
Yeah. No, so I think the bar is on the floor when it comes to performance.
If you're trying to leave the 9-to-5 and build a business, this book has to be on your desk. $100 Million Money Models by Alex Hormozi. The whole $100 million series genuinely changed the game for me. It helped me nail offer structure, pricing and packaging, and how to pick models that actually scale, not just sound good on paper. I credit this series to helping me build $1 million business in my 20s after leaving my corporate job. Now here's the fun part. I bought 200 copies to give away to listeners who want to start or level up their business. Here's how to get yours. You need to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. An honest review, you can say whatever you want, screenshot it, and just email the screenshot to reviews@manazir.org. We'll then send you a link to claim a free copy. We cover the cost of the book, you just cover shipping. That's it. If you want the ultimate resource to get serious about your offer and revenue model, this is it. So just leave a review, screenshot it, and email us. There are only 200 copies available, so do this as fast as possible.